mischief of the cunning Porpoise.
I will slay this mischief maker. Not so long and wide the world is, not so rude and rough the way is, that my wrath shall not attain him, that my vengeance shall not reach him.
Then in swift pursuit departed Hiawatha, now the hunter on the trail of Porpoise. From the highlands far above them, Porpoise, turning backward, made a gesture of defiance, made a gesture of derision, and aloud cried Hiawatha from the lowlands far beneath him,
Not so long and wide the world is, not so rude and rough the way is, but my wrath shall overtake you, and my vengeance shall attain you.
Over rock and over river, through bush and brake and forest, ran the maddened Hiawatha. Like an antelope he bounded. And so near he came, so near him at the summit of the mountain, that his hands stretched out could seize him. Hiawatha reached to seize him, caught his mighty fan of feathers, whirled and spun him round in circles, fanned the air into a whirlwind, danced the dust and leaves about him, sent him wheeling, whirling downward. All in vain did Porpoise struggle to regain his balance. Ended were his wild adventures. Ended were his tricks and gambols. Ended all his craft and cunning. Ended all his mischief making. One dark evening after sundown, by her wigwam, Laughing Water sat with old Nokomis, waiting for the steps of Hiawatha, homeward from the hunt returning. On their faces gleamed the firelight, painting them with streaks of crimson. Then the wind grew chill a moment. Brighter glowed the fire a moment, as some women entered softly, without a word of salutation, without a sign of recognition, sat down in the farthest shadows. From their aspect and their raiment, strangers seemed they in the village. Very pale and haggard were they, as they sat there, sad and silent, cowering within the shadows. Was it the wind above the heavens, muttering down around the wigwam? Was it the owl, the ko-ko-ko-ho, hooting from the dismal forest? Sure, a voice said in the silence that these were the corpses clad in garments from the kingdom of Ponima, from the land of the hereafter. Homeward now came Hiawatha from his hunting in the forest, with the red deer on his shoulders. At the feet of Laughing Water down he threw his lifeless burden. Then he turned and saw the strangers, cowering, crouching in the shadows. But he questioned not the strangers, only spake to bid them welcome to his lodge, his food, his fireside. When the evening meal was ready and the deer had been divided, all the pallid guests, the strangers springing from among the shadows, seized upon the choicest portions, without asking, without thanking, eagerly devoured the morsels, flitted back among the shadows to the furthest of the shadows. Never once had Hiawatha by a word or look reproved them, that the rights of guests and strangers by a look might not be lessened. From his couch rose Hiawatha, saw the pallid guests, the shadows, weeping in the silent midnight, and he asked them why their hearts were so afflicted that they sobbed so in the midnight. And the shadows ceased from weeping, and they said with hollow voices,
We are ghosts of the departed, souls of those who once were with you. Hither have we come to try you, hither have we come to warn you. Cries of grief and lamentation reach us in the blessed islands, cries of anguish from the living, calling back their friends departed. We are but a burden to you, and we see that the departed have no place among the living. Do not lay such heavy burdens in the graves of those you bury. Only give them food to carry. Only give them fire to light them. 4 days is the spirit's journey to the land of ghosts and shadows. Therefore, when the dead are buried, let a fire as night approaches 4 times on the grave be kindled, that the soul upon its journey may not grope about in darkness. Farewell, noble Hiawatha. We have put you to the trial. We have found you great and noble. Fail not in the greater trial. Faint not in the harder struggle.
When they ceased, a sudden darkness fell and filled the silent evening. Hiawatha heard a rustle as of garments trailing by him, felt the cold breath of the night air, for a moment felt the starlight. But he saw the ghosts no longer, saw no more the wandering spirits from the kingdom of Ponima, from the land of the hereafter. Following fast then came the famine, following faster came the fever. Into Hiawatha's wigwam came 2 other guests, as silent as the ghosts were and as gloomy, waited not to be invited, sat there without word of welcome in the seat of laughing water, looked with haggard eyes and hollow at the face of laughing water. And the foremost said,
Behold me, I am famine.
And the other said,
Behold me, I am fever.
And the lovely Minnehaha shuddered as they looked upon her, shuddered at the words they uttered, lay down on her bed in silence, lay there trembling, freezing, burning at the looks they cast upon her, at the fearful words they uttered. Forth into the empty forest rushed the maddened Hiawatha. In his heart was deadly sorrow, in his face a stony firmness, on his brow the sweat of anguish, and he cried with face uplifted,
Get ye Manito the mighty, give your children food, O Father. Give us food, or we must perish. Give me food for Minnehaha, for my dying Minnehaha.
In the wigwam with Nokomis, with these gloomy guests that watched her, with the famine and the fever, she was lying, the beloved, she, the dying Minnehaha. She said,
Hark, I hear a rushing, hear a roaring and a rushing, hear the falls of Minnehaha calling to me from a distance.
Said old Nokomis,
No, my child, 'tis the night wind in the pine trees. Look, I see my father standing lonely at his doorway, beckoning to me from his wigwam in the land of the Dakotas. No, my child, 'tis the smoke that waves and beckons. Ah, the eyes of Pauguk glare upon me in the darkness. I can feel his icy fingers clasping mine amid the darkness. Hiawatha, Hiawatha.
and the desolate Hiawatha, far away amid the forest, heard the voice of Minnehaha calling to him in the darkness. Homeward hurried Hiawatha, heard Nokomis moaning, wailing,
Wahanoin, Wahanoin. Would that I had perished for you. Would that I were dead as you are. Wahanoin, Wahanoin.
and he ran toward his wigwam. saw the old Nokomis slowly rocking to and fro and moaning, saw his lovely Minnehaha lying dead and cold before him. Then he sat down, still and speechless, at the feet of Laughing Water, at those willing feet that never more would lightly run to meet him, never more would lightly follow. Then they buried Minnehaha. In the ground a grave they made her. In the graveyard deep and darksome, thus they buried Minnehaha. And then a fire was lighted. On her grave 4 times was kindled, for her soul upon its journey to the islands of the blessed. From his wigwam, Hiawatha saw it burning in the forest, lighting up the gloomy hemlocks. From his sleepless bed uprising, from the bed of Minnehaha, stood and watched it by his wigwam, that it might not be extinguished, might not leave her in the darkness.
Farewell, Minnehaha. Farewell, O my Laughing Water. All my heart is buried with you. All my thoughts go onward with you. Come not back again to labor, where the famine and the fever wear the heart and waste the body. Soon my task will be completed. Soon your footsteps I shall follow to the islands of the blessed, to the kingdom of Ponima, to the land of the hereafter.
By the shore of Gitche Gumee, by the shining big sea water, at the doorway of his wigwam, in the pleasant summer evening, Hiawatha stood and waited. All the air was full of freshness, all the earth was bright and joyous. Bright above him shone the heavens, level spread the lake before him. On its margin the great forest stood reflected in the water. O'er the water, floating, flying, something in the hazy distance, something in the mists of evening, loomed and lifted from the water. Now seemed floating, now seemed flying, coming nearer, nearer, nearer. Through the shining mists of evening came a birch canoe with paddles, rising, sinking on the water, dripping, flashing in the moonlight. And within it came a people from the distant land of Wabun. Came the black-robed chief, the prophet, he, the priest of prayer, the pale-face with his guides and his companions. And Hiawatha said to his people,
I have seen it in a vision, seen the great canoe with pinions, seen the people with white faces. Gitche Manito the mighty sends them hither on his errand, sends them to us with his message. Let us welcome them, the strangers, hail them as our friends and brothers, and the heart's right hand of friendship give them as they come to see us.
And the noble Hiawatha, with his hands aloft extended, held aloft in sign of welcome, waited, full of exultation, till the birch canoes with paddles grated on the shining pebbles, till the black-robed chief, the pale-face, with the cross upon his bosom, landed on the sandy margin. Then the joyous Hiawatha cried aloud and spake in this wise:
Beautiful is the moon, O strangers, when you come so far to see us. All our town in peace awaits you. All our doors stand open for you. You shall enter at our wigwams, for the heart's right hand we give you.
And the black-robed chief made answer:
Peace be with you, Hiawatha. Peace be with you and your people. Peace of prayer and peace of pardon.
Then the generous Hiawatha led the strangers to his fireside, seated them on skins of bison, seated them on skins of ermine, and the careful old Nokomis brought them food in bowls of basswood, and the calumet, the peace pipe, filled and lighted for their smoking. All the old men of the village, all the warriors of the nations came to bid the strangers welcome. In a circle round the fire with their pipes they sat in silence, waiting to behold the strangers, waiting to receive their message. Then the black-robed chief, the prophet, told his message to the people, told them of the Virgin Mary and her blessed Son, the Savior, how in distant lands and ages he had lived on earth as we do, how the disbelievers mocked him, scourged him, crucified him, how he rose from where they laid him, walked again with his disciples, and ascended into heaven. And the chiefs made answer, saying, We have listened to your message. We have heard your words of wisdom. We will think on what you tell us. It is well for us, O friend, that you have come so far to see us. From his place rose Hiawatha.
I am going, O my people, on a long and distant journey, to the portals of the sunset, to the regions of the home wind. But these guests I leave behind me. In your watch and ward I leave them. See that never harm comes near them. See that never fear molests them. Listen to their words of wisdom. Listen to the truth they tell you. For the Master of life has sent them from the land of light and morning.
On the shore stood Hiawatha, turned and waved his hand at parting. On the clear and luminous water launched his birch canoe for sailing, whispered to it,
Westward, westward.
and with speed it darted forward. And the people from the margin watched him floating, rising, sinking, till the birch canoe seemed lifted high into a sea of splendor, till it sank into the vapors like the new moon, slowly, slowly sinking in the purple distance. And they said, Farewell forever, farewell, O Hiawatha. And the forests, dark and lonely, moved through all their depths of darkness, sighing, Farewell, O Hiawatha. And the heron, the shashuga, from her haunts among the fenlands called, Farewell, farewell, O Hiawatha. Thus departed Hiawatha, in the purple mists of evening, to the regions of the home wind, to the islands of the blessed, to the kingdom of Ponimar, to the land of the hereafter.